Hey, there it is. Hold on. Mic's on. All's good. Yeah, it's Friday. Hey, it's Friday morning. And here we are. It's Frid-Ai. And there's lots going on. It pains me a little bit. And by the way, welcome. Hello. Like, subscribe, join the show, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff I'm supposed to say as a professional streamer that I always forget to say. It pains me ever so slightly, regardless of the punability of calling this Frid-Ai, or even my most recent AIO jokes and whatnot, because as many of you know, I don't think the term artificial intelligence is correct. I mean, it's a little early to get, I guess, into political correctness in terms of artificial life forms, fake life forms, as it were. But I mean, why find yourself behind the eight ball? The South Koreans famously have put together a robot bill of rights for fear that at some point, unless they put some curbs on it, people will mistreat robots so much that the robots will decide they've had enough and Blade Runner us all out of existence. So they decided to kind of create some rules for engagement with robots that is somewhere between how you treat somebody's car and how you and kicking someone's dog, I suppose. That somewhere between don't do that so the dog doesn't bite anybody, so we don't have to put the thing down so that we don't have a problem with people wanting dogs going forward, that kind of thing. And hey, that's not your property. Why are you beating up my weird appointment robot that's roaming around the office just because you were late and you didn't call ahead? Those kind of things. So there's a bunch of steps that could be taken and are being taken around that area. And I have always said that one of them is that artificial intelligence, if it is ultimately intelligent, is not artificial. Artificial is fake, is not real, is a front, a caricature, a fraud. The reality is it would be, if it exists and if it can exist, synthetic intelligence. Made. It is created. It is intelligent, but it didn't happen organically. It was synthesized through a process. And so I think most of what people refer to as sentient AI or AGI, which I think should be called SGI, synthesized general intelligence, as opposed to artificial general intelligence. I'm going to die on this hill. I don't give a shit. I'm sticking to it. And I've been back and forth with some sciencey folks online, and I still feel I'm winning. I'm winning them over. But the Biden administration has kind of taken some of the cues. And we'll jump right into this, I guess, right. Let me pop this in. Does it work? Yeah, there you go. Biden administration will invest $140 million to launch 7 new national AI research institutes. Now, most of these are going to be, this is an investment in universities and maybe a couple of NGOs. Let's see, they're going, 4 leading AI tech companies. Blah, blah, blah. They met with them, with Alphabet, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Microsoft, who has a big investment in OpenAI, which is the thing that makes ChatGPT, for the who's at home who aren't, up on all this stuff lately. The Biden administration announced Thursday a sweeping series of planned actions to help mitigate some of the risks that these emerging technologies pose to the American public. That includes $140 million to launch 7 new AI R&D centers as part of the National Science Foundation, extracting commitments from leading AI companies to participate in a public evaluation of their AI systems at DEF CON 31, and ordering the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, to draft policy guidance for federal employees. The Biden-Harris administration has been leading one of those on these issues since long before these newest generative AI products debuted last fall. Senior administration officials said during a reporter's call on Wednesday. They unveiled its AI Bill of Rights blueprint last October, which sought to help guide the design, development, and deployment of artificial intelligence and other automated systems so that they protect the rights of the American public, per a White House press release. At a time of rapid innovation, boy, is that an understatement. It is essential that we make clear the values we must advance and the common sense we must protect. The administration official continued with Thursday's announcement and the blueprint of the AI Bill of Rights. We've given company and policymakers and the individuals building these technologies some clear ways that they can mitigate the risks to consumers. And by the way, Engadget fills in this whole like consumers part of it. I would take this as to citizens, people of the country, whether you consume it or not, because it is not a product. It is an entire technology. Whether you drive or not, for example, you need street lights to work and stop signs to work and the people to obey traffic signals and the rules of the road so that food can get where it needs to go so you can buy it, so you can order it brought to you at your home wherever you are. So you don't have to consume specifically AI to be on the receiving end of how it's managed or mismanaged. Okay, does that make sense? I try to make sense. That's my goal above all else. And I got on a big philosophical tear on Twitter this morning, as many of you might have seen, and we'll address some of those things in our more philosophical moments. But first, I want to open. Where is it? There's the chat. I'm going to sneeze very possibly because there's cat hair everywhere, and while I'm not allergic to cats, occasionally one of them will spear my nostril and fly right up into my head, and my body will reject it and try to kick it back out. And it just doesn't work that way. It just stays speared into your face. All right. Okay, hold on. Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm going to try to get this in here. There's a bunch of shit going on, which is funny, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, if I may, hi, chat room. Hi, good morning. How are you? Bless you. Thank you. Bless you as well. Bless you. No, bless you. Bless you. It always makes me nervous when he does that. I see three of them. Hit the one in the middle. I found an AI-created cover of the Beatles singing God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. Yeah, try blowing your nose. All right. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have a cat or a dog with very short-haired dog with long... Occasionally, it feels like that's exactly what happened. Like you just inhale and a single hair, like a spear, just flies up your left nostril and jams into the... Yes, Rocky IV. So yes, that's exactly it. Free Mod Friday. And by the way, love to the mods, by the way. Thank you guys for dealing with, we've had a couple of the like return of the grosser trolls lately for a couple of moments. They didn't last very long. They just don't have any staying power, just like their leader, Donald Trump. So, yes, you have a short hair puppy, you know exactly. Don't feed the mods. Yeah, well, depends on what you're feeding them. But so let's go back to the Biden stuff about the AI stuff. So one of the reasons I'm going to be talking about AI to you guys going into the election season, and it is more than likely going to become part of my Sexy Liberal Stand-Up Act, of which we are announcing dates. We've got one already in October in LA that's already on sale at the Saban. And it's pretty close to sold out. I'm just saying. And then we are all next year. We have at least one date a month. I'm trying to get us up to at least two, even if it's the same weekend and we just have to burn Steph to a crisp, wearing her out on the road. This is going to be a part of it because it is going to affect you. You're going to see a lot of the ads. You're going to see the way they're going to save money. Campaigns will save a shit ton of money using AI instead of hiring consultants and producing bits and that kind of stuff. And you're going to see probably the highest production value and the weirdest shit you've ever seen in campaign ads going forward. And this will be the first run at it. And so maybe people will temper it. There'll be some people who will temper it and some people will just go like whole hog and be fucking crazy. I'm just going to try and prepare you. You should, from this point forward, any video you see, any audio you hear, that seems outlandish to you or outside the bounds of ways someone would behave, unless it's Tucker Carlson who admits to that's what he said. Like, unless they admit in court, yeah, that's me in the video, I would take everything with a grain of salt, just to start. Maybe check your reaction reflex. Yeah. All right. We also need companies and innovators to be our partners in this work, the White House official said. Tech companies have a fundamental responsibility to make sure their products are safe and secure and that they protect people's rights before they're deployed. or made public tomorrow. To that end, the vice president is scheduled to meet with the tech leaders at the White House on Thursday for what is expected to be, quote, a frank discussion about the risks we see in current and near-term AI development. We're also aiming to underscore the importance of their role on mitigating risks and advancing responsible innovation, and we'll discuss how we can work together to protect the American people from the potential harms of AI so they can reach the benefits of this new technology. It's the same shit when the internet was introduced. You can argue that it's almost a wash on a political front whether or not the internet helped in terms of social media, but in terms of like business and the expansion of sales and making small companies be able to compete on the same level as a big company, on so many fronts, the internet was absolutely a game changer and shoved a lot of it, made the potential for people to outpace using innovation and creativity. People who already had more capital than them. The internet in and of itself raised the floor. And AI will more than likely do the same thing. And this is interesting because this is Engadget. This is how on it they are. The administration also announced it has obtained independent commitment from more than a half dozen leading AI companies: Anthropic, Google, Hugging Face, which I'll show you in a minute. Hugging Face's chatbot and their coding bot, like the stuff that's available on Hugging Face, which most people don't, it sort of operates below the regular radar that people have. I'll show you in a minute. Microsoft, NVIDIA, which is the company that makes the GPUs that gamers favored for a very long time and are capable of calculations that are so high because of the needs of video that they became sort of the go-to for crypto farms and then AI. OpenAI and Stability AI to put their AI systems up for public evaluation at DEF CON 31. And there are thousands of attendees who will be able to poke and prod around these models to see if they square with the Biden administration's stated principles and practices of the blueprint. Okay, so let me go back to you guys. Hi, everybody. And I will. The Beatles never played with Manson. All right. And there went brick and mortar stores. Now iconic Christmas tree store. It's interesting. I will say that one of the aspects of technology that they talked about in the early 90s that was sort of forgotten, and social media sort of created a rubber crutch for everyone that kind of satisfied this need, but then ultimately broke down because it didn't satisfy the depth of human connection that we need, is that aspect of high tech, high touch, that people involved in a lot of computer work needed more hugs and massages than the average person to feel healthy because they spend so much time, attached to a machine. Now, as machines become more personable themselves, as we moved away from, coding directly to plug and play code to direct UIs and, user interfaces that people can smoothly use, it looks more like a desktop, that idea. It makes it a little bit easier, but there's still this limit where a computer is no substitute for a person. I'm sorry, even with certain attachments, and you know who you are, shame on yourself. But like over the next couple of years, as the ability for AI to sort of mock and create the illusion of humanity, people will become, in some ways, some people are going to suck right into it and they'll just interact with the artificial people that they can sort of control for their own comfort level. But a lot of people, myself included, and I think probably a lot of you, are going to need a lot more outside time, a lot more human activity time, a lot more going out to dinner and going to see live shows and working in an office amongst other people, because there is going to be a wall of comfort that the average person, there's like people who love computers and early adopters, of which we have a few in our audience, Rob Glenn and I, can do okay, but most people can't. Strive for AI personality. Well, there will be an AI accent at some point. I have no mouth and I must scream comes to mind. Well, yep. So yes, face-to-face personal connection will actually be elevated in many ways. And it kind of times out with the post-COVID world where people are wanting to get out and do stuff more. And I hope you guys come see shows live. Nerd Halen's in Dallas in a couple weeks, and or just outside it. And Same thing with like the sexy liberal shows and actual political activity. You're going to see a lot of people, believe me, all the social media sites will be noisy as shit going into the next election cycle. You're going to see more personal gatherings. iRobot is coming. Yeah, to some degree. No question. Yeah. Oh, yes, we'll get to the jobs report. Oh, boy, will we. So anyways, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up. It's Hal Sparks Mornings, Mega Worldwide. Let me open up this was pretty funny this morning. Yeah. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, every time, like, and I don't know, what do you do if you're the Glenn Becks and the Fox Newses and the Maria Bartiromos of the world when this news keeps coming fucking out? Like, at a certain point, how do you not punch yourself in the fucking face? Why are they not doing head desk moments? It just like again and again and again. Hot jobs report raises odds. Fed keeps rates higher for longer. I don't think so. They're going to pause. And partly the hiring is because they're expecting a pause and blah, blah, blah. Non-farm payrolls rose 253,000 jobs in April, more than estimate. And by the way, weren't we supposed to just see layoff after layoff? Weren't we cascading into a horrifying recession? Jobless rate fell to multi-decade low of 3.4%, Bureau of Labor Statistics says. The unexpected pickups in U.S. hiring rate and wages, Hashtag go dark Brandon. Last month increased chances the Federal Reserve will hold interest rates higher for longer and potentially keep the door open to an 11th straight hike in June. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. I have no control over it. My guess is they're going to pause and hold that pause and hopefully, start wedging themselves out. Because they're choking off some of these smaller banks by doing this, the ones that had over leveraged themselves. And it's the bank's fault. It's these regional banks' fault for getting in over their, getting out over their skis, lending to people and not getting the principal paid back like a bunch of assholes. But the raising interest rates are partly why they were like, oh, this is great. They couldn't possibly raise it past 2%. And then, oops. All right. Non-farm payrolls rose 253,000 last month. A Bureau of Labor Statistics report showed on Friday economists had expected an increase of 185,000. The unemployment rate fell back to a multi-decade low of 3.4%. Biden's trying to destroy the economy. It's terrible out there. Everyone is dying. There's nothing. No one has a pot to piss in except there's a new company that makes piss pots, and obviously they're going to make America wet again. Fed Chair Jerome Powell, speaking in a press conference Wednesday after officials wrapped up their May 2nd, 3rd meeting, said the labor market remains extremely tight. And as one of the data points he and his colleagues will be carefully assessing as they determine whether more hikes are needed to cool the economy. And again, this is bullshit. You can't, this is still based on this Volckerism nonsense that we have inflation caused by monetary policy. We did not. It's supply shock, and it's gonna fucking stay that way. We're moving factories back home. We're avoiding places that use slave labor like Xinjiang fucking cotton for the first time in a couple of decades. And I got news for you. That's gonna make shit more expensive. Unless you value human life. Because then what's your definition of expense? $1 more for an H&M shirt? Or knowing that you shaved $1 off the cost of an H&M shirt because it's made because people in Xinjiang are being enslaved, sterilized, and murdered. I mean, what's your definition of expensive at that point? When the Labor Department discovers that some factories or food processing plants are using child labor to cut costs, and then we go, you can't do that. then the cost going up or maintaining at the level it was before is part and parcel to how we live. We are making economic choices based on our ethics. And you can either bitch about that and therefore, I suppose, tell everybody around you that you don't give a rat's ass about slave labor and child endangerment. Or you can go, no, that's how much it costs in modern life for that privilege that I enjoy. And that cost of privilege goes up in relation to how much damage I choose not to do in the world. Other than that, I have no opinion. The Fed has lifted borrowing costs aggressively over the last 14 months. Benchmark federal funds rate to an average of 5% to 5.25, but has indicated it may pause and hold them high for now. I'm going with 4. Powell said that easing inflation and tighter credit conditions following a string of bank collapses may give the Fed room to assess the impact of their policy on the economy. Yes, because that was the result of it. These fucking little banks getting out over their skis and giving out free loans to the Trumps of the world, and so they could buy mansions they couldn't afford. And then all of a sudden getting the interest rates jacked up. And the only impact it's having is on these areas where they were just throwing good money after bad in areas that are normally volatile because of the availability of funds. And then you throw more money into this, and suddenly it's less volatile because you don't have to worry. There's no ramifications. You don't have to pay the money back. You're guaranteed a return almost anywhere else. Right now, if you're a real estate investor and you own properties not so you can live in them or so that you can put people you love in them, but you rent them out or you buy massive amounts of them, the return on investment is about 4%. Once the interest rate gets above that, suddenly investing in a shit ton of empty real estate that you can just ride out because the value of the real estate is rising higher than the interest on the loan that you actually had starts to diminish, if not collapse. Ta-da! This isn't even... Again, we looked at this last... Trump is losing $1 million a month because he didn't refinance on a single property of his, which means he didn't do it on any of the properties when any of this is happening. So if he's doing it on one of these properties he's partner in, every single property he's a partner in, everybody else renegotiated or negotiated a fixed rate on the fixed interest rate on their part of the loan, and he didn't, and he's now paying double, if not more, than what they are paying. Financial market estimates see a rate cut as early as September, continue to be out of line with forecasts from the Fed, where none of the 18 policymakers see a reduction this year. Yeah, I don't think so either. I think they're gonna stop and hold. That's my thought. That would be the logic. One would think. What about car prices? Talk about getting over your skis. Yeah, well, look at the cost of used car prices as they started going up, and then all the cuts in electric cars, for example, which have to come because most of them are in the luxury range categorically, and yet if you're aiming them at the mass of consumers, they have to come down. And so anybody even panicking that they come down is sort of ridiculous, right? That's one of the weird parts of this. It's like the real estate market last year or the year before, super overheated, made no fucking sense. Houses that should not cost anywhere near what you're actually getting are inflated across the country. A place like Austin and other places where people left after the pandemic and they were buying a house next to their parents. That kind of shit. And then the prices just jacked up because people could just afford it because they were getting New Yorkers who were like, look at all this fucking space for what and both ends and, both sides end up jacking the price in either place because the New York one isn't going down because of it. Nobody's losing money on Manhattan property, but at the same time, it's driving the money that they have that they've needed to be able to manage the cost of having a property in Manhattan. They're now spending on a house outside of fucking Austin, and the price goes through the fucking roof. So, and it makes no sense. And then, of course, that's going to have to collapse at some point. Now, is it going to go completely zero? No. Is it going to drop down and like, my house is worth $80,000 less than I thought it was? And then, well, are you going to stay in it for the next 5-10 years? Yes. Well, then it'll be back up there, calm the fuck down. Yes, Tampa Bay is another example. Nalabine, absolutely. One of the big markets where that occurred. And there's a shit ton of people who moved to Florida because of the whole, like, it's the freedom state, and had no idea how much it fucking costs to live in Florida. Like, the ancillary costs of just, like, environmental damage to your house in Florida is fucking enormous. Insurance costs, like, all the people got wiped out because they had hurricane insurance, but they didn't have flood insurance, and they didn't think there needed to be a distinction because they thought, well, isn't flooding part of a hurricane? Nope, not in Central Florida. So, I mean, and by the way, all those people are now moving to like South Carolina or to Texas. Yeah, freedom's not free. Weird. It is weird. They always get their money. If your house costs more, nothing changes, but you pay more. Well, that depends. You know, again, if you take out more of a loan instead of just, you know, paying it off and then, you know, having the equity build, whatever. Anyways, I'm just saying it should be quite obvious that this was coming, especially as inflation went up. All the really smart real estate bigwigs, of which Trump is not one, went, oh shit, they're serious about this raising rates thing. And so they just decided, like, I'm gonna lock it. I had an adjustable rate, and it was helping me because we were down near the ass end of the spectrum, under 2%. But we're, you know, they're definitely going to turn that around. It's going to keep rising. So I'm going to lock in a rate at whatever the lowest I can get right now, even if I'm paying a little more than I'm paying, because over the next couple of years, it's going to be at least twice that. And that's exactly what happened. And Trump didn't see it coming. And now he's paying, you know, on that one San Francisco property, he's paying at least $1 million in interest more a month. And he doesn't even own like a giant share of that fucking building. And what good is it? It's probably half empty. That's just the taxes, or that's just the interest on the loan. That's not, what's the capacity of the fucking building, right? How many vacancies are there? Is it actually making money? That's a whole other thing too, because of San Francisco's issues. Wage growth was strong, indicating continuing inflationary pressures from the labor market. And again, people having money and spending it like a motherfucker. That's the American people. It's a weird mismatch in the dialogue I keep hearing about the U.S. economy on the goalpost ends of the political spectrum. Everybody thinks everybody is fucking destitute, and I don't mean challenged. I don't mean everybody's got bills to pay and I have to maybe move something around if I want to take a vacation, and I'm not going to be able to take a vacation this year because we've got so much work. Like that kind of conversation, which is a struggle and is genuine and is something that people experience, the mass of people experience all the time, is not the same thing as everybody's sitting around the table staring at one piece of bread while everybody's stomach growls and, and Tiny Tim sits in the corner not talking. There's a huge difference, but everybody talks about the normal struggles of sort of like lower middle class people, of which there are millions, and this idea of abject sort of Appalachian shack poverty, and tenement poverty where kids are eating lead chips in 1973, that everybody sort of pictures in their head when they're talking about it. And again, you can care about people who are in abject poverty and work on solutions for them. But if you're trying to solve the other problem that way, you're going to fail, because your equation does not have the real numbers in it. You are not going to help the people you aim to help if you are solving for a different problem entirely. And if you can't make the distinction, especially politically, between when somebody talks about, like building from the bottom up and the middle out, as Biden's talking about, or kind of moderating economic concepts because of the belief that the middle class built is the most charitable class in the country by volume, and the lower class is helped by a bigger middle class. But what constitutes a middle class today is not the same thing that would constitute a middle class in 1950 or 1960 terms, which is much lower. Right now, the modern middle class, you're talking about people who make 125 to 200K in a household a year, which is, double, triple what it used to be. And the comfort availability to somebody living in that bubble is much bigger because technology is deflationary, and we all experience the benefit of advances in everything from fucking trucking and shipping and the availability of fuel oil and solar panels and all that. Like that, we do not live in 1943 technologically, and so therefore people's lives are that much more comfortable, but the struggle is still real, and so you got to solve for that struggle. Hence student loan relief, without just totally wiping away an entire generation's debt, because you can't, because if you do, somebody else will wipe away the debt of someone awful. Well, we've talked about that before. Talking about like poverty and low income help as if it's all the same is, again, it's sort of akin to when we talk about homelessness and everybody addresses homelessness as if there's one cause and ignores the complexity of the issue, and therefore never solves it because no single solution will fix it. And saying it will is terrible. Okay, so got my first home for free, plus the government gave me $30,000 to rehab it, and a low-cost mortgage to pay for the remaining $70,000. Lived in the house for 14 years and sold it for $46,000. Well, all right. Way to rehab it then, Wes. Can't afford Starbucks and gluten-free bread. Damn, we fell hard. Right. Top of the morning. Hello. Welcome. Ronald Reagan's trickle down pissed on us. Yeah, I mean, it's a failed economic theory. It does not work. However, in spite of that being his economic theory, the country still grew in spite of it. Now, obviously, Clinton had a major impact on turning the economy around, and we ended up with a government surplus. And then, obviously, we had Bush, basically throwing all that money into a hole in the desert for not a particularly good fucking reason. And everybody's shitting on Biden for finally getting us out of it. But the reality is that even though Reagan and his ilk sold this idea of trickle-down economics, they ultimately didn't participate in it, and much of the class of people around them also knew it was horseshit, and strove to operate outside its boundaries because they knew it would destroy the middle class ultimately, and that's where they got most of their wealth from. So it's, again, there is, to some degree, when properly used, the selfish reflex helps, because some of these people are so, it bugs me when people can't lie or do selfish right on the right, because it seems like they should have a lot of practice. But there are some people who are so selfish that they're like, I'm going to vote for Obama because I'm not going to make any fucking money if these people crater the entire world. You should audition to Bang Zoom Entertainment and City Bowl with Tommy. So, as I'm wearing a day for future only if you want to. I'm saying you need to. I actually admire your tag from that. Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that, Alexander. That's very nice of you. To Bang Zoom Entertainment and Studiopolis. Okay. I love Tom Kenny. He's a good guy. And we love Rob. I've done stuff with Rob Paulson. He was on TAC in the Power of Juju. Appreciate it. Hold on one second. And, whoops, let me get in here, you weirdo. Copy. Let's see. Copying that. And then I've got to do we open here? No, I want Notion. That's what I want to open. I got to open something real quick. Then we'll go back to here. That's the App Store. This is Crazy Pants. Very weird. And open. There you go. So keep your eyes open. Down some days. Hold on. Let me take this down here. Plus paste. There we go. All right. Who's spamming the URLs? Yeah, that's all right. We got past it. All right. There we go. Thank you. All right. How to Geek. Thank you for doing that, by the way. And then where are we? Let's go back to you guys. There you go. Well, hold on. Let me go back to this guy. There you go. Now, let's get to our trends for the day, shall we? Hassan Piker is trending because he apparently showed up at the writer's strike and apparently is getting trolled by people there. This kid, and then he ended up leaving, which is, I mean, I think partly let's see, who got to meet his son. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so this is him leaving, blah blah blah, because he's getting, I don't know. I give a shit, but and by the way, all for the writer strike, for the record, and there's Adam Conover. We're live now from the writer strike picket line with Hassan and Caroline. Check it out on twitch.tv. Right. So what you're saying is you're giving him free content during the strike. Scab. I'm kidding. All right. Strike for the WGA outside of a Disney Plus shoot for the Wonder Man TV show right now. If we shut this shoot down, Disney is going to lose a couple $100,000. The more of these we shut down, the sooner the strike ends. No. No, they'll just continue to move production out of LA and then put the writers in Los Angeles. That's one of the issues. It's what they've done effectively. This is the lesson learned after the last WGA strike by the studios was put the writers, you can keep your writers in LA with a couple of satellite people maybe in South Carolina or Georgia or something, but then move the actual physical production out of LA because it's the only thing that can shut down and interrupt genuinely or make you look bad by standing out in front of it, for example, is a studio door, which doesn't necessarily affect anything, and the actual studios themselves, like block the gates so that people can't drive in. That's the most you can do. And if there's no production in Los Angeles, you lower the impact. Late night shows shutting down immediately after writer strike called, which I think is good. And again, this is probably the most rubber to the road writing that happens because it's topical and daily and constant. I do think it's funny that the WGA, because it's largely fiction writing, does not necessarily cover the writers at news organizations. So that would end it a lot quicker. They should strive to get the writers on cable news, the people who draft the statements that go into the teleprompter that help shape the writing for the day. Even editorially, if you do it as a host, the WGA could go a long way towards furthering their needs later on if they could incorporate that. It'll be very hard. It's akin to SAG absorbing AFTRA, but yeah. So this is them, yeah. And he's ordering $500 worth of pizza because he makes $250,000 a month on Twitch. Hi, don't forget to subscribe, twitch.tv/HalSparks. George Conway, who is, formerly married, I guess, to it's a connection between Leonard Leo and Kellyanne Conway in 2012. Oh, I don't know, maybe it was favorite Never Trump or George Conway. What? Yeah, he was part of that. We partner at, what difference does it make? George Conway was president of the Federalist Society at Yale. He spent his entire career trying to get the USA to the place it is now. He even dated Laura Ingraham. I get people saw him on CNN and think he's a nice guy, but that doesn't change his politics. Her husband is divorcing her. Don't try and smear his reputation because of a traitor for a wife. Oh, I see. I think there's this illusion that of like Conway, George and Kellyanne somehow being like one of these kind of dueling couples. They're not. Politically, they're on the same side. They just disagreed on Trump versus not Trump. Now, I will say that that is a line. That there is an element of George Conway, at least, seems to be operating in the world of I have these very strong political beliefs, but I believe in playing fair in this regard. Whereas Kellyanne Conway obviously does not. Given tonight's bombshell that Kellyanne Conway is funneling money to Ginny Thomas for Leonard Leo, the timing of Conway's divorce is fascinating. Will cable host politely sidestep the obvious question when George Conway is on the show? I like, again, he's leaving. All of these signs point to somebody who goes, that's the last straw, whatever. You think Trump has reached the bottom, then somehow he managed to dig himself deeper. George Conway. Okay, the idea is that he's making a distinction she isn't. And I'm not going to want anything the Federalist Society wants to happen. But there's a difference between George Conway being with them at Yale as a conservative, marrying this woman, realizing she's engaged in some hinky shit and getting away from her. I don't know why I'm supposed to rend my garments and freak out. Howard Stern, let's see. Howard Stern upset black NBA players ignore him courtside. Is everything racial now? What? I don't know what he's referring to, and I don't care. Go from rebel to government propaganda, whatever. NBA players launching a CSI Vegas level investigation into who Howard Stern is. While courtside, the black players won't come over and say hello to me, but they'll go over to Spike Lee. I grew up in a black neighborhood. You know what I mean? I mean, they should know that, but I get ignored. What a weird thing to say. Who cares? I guess some people just make a living stepping on rakes. Speaking of stepping on rakes, Yevgeny Prigozhin. That's pretty funny. Everybody's saying he looks like Shrek. I'm going to show you that video because he's showing dead bodies. He has the camera pan in at the end of this video. He has them pan in on like these dead Wagnerites. And honestly, boo fuckity who, but it's gross. And he's complaining because they have 70% less ammunition than their ammunition is down 70%, and they need 100% just to stay alive. So they're getting wiped out. And he says he's lost dozens of tens of thousands of his own people. That's a big number. But this is him basically, here you go. We'll stay in Bakhmut up till May 9th in spite of lack of ammunition. They're going to stay through the holiday. Right here. We're waiting for an order to withdraw from Bakhmut. They're going to swap out and let the regular order troops, stay there. Blah, blah, blah. I appeal personally on behalf of the Wagner PMC Commanders Council. And he just like bitching and screaming and blah, blah, blah at them. There it is. Dozens of thousands of dead. That's what it was in his private Wagner army in Ukraine. These guys are from Wagner PMC who died today. Their blood is still fresh, it says. Yeah. Shoigu have instructed, this is Russian victory is inevitable, I'm sure, yeah. Win Russia will is the name of this account, yeah. Shoigu have instructed deputy ministers to ensure troops fighting in the SMO have all the weapons and equipment they need. Good news to Prigozhin, Wagner, and bad news for Ukraine. Also good news, the newest T-90 Prorov are actively going to the front in the, no. Solovyev criticizing Russian military who publicly speak out about their problems. He obviously means Prigozhin, but the Russian propagandists avoid saying his name out loud because he'll come to town and kick his ass, which is his worry, or send one of his guys to kill him because he doesn't give a fuck. There will be no traditional reception by Putin in the Kremlin on 9th of May. And then Kadyrov and these gross people. Fuck, there's someone. They are somebody's fucking fathers, and this is the same video. This is him flipping out. These scum are not giving us munitions, bitch, and we'll be in hell. Their organs fucking eaten. And then he calls people, he F-bombs. We're short on munitions, 70%. Shoigu, Gerasimov, where are they? Blah, blah, yeah. Appeal to Shoigu with a request to issue ammunition immediately. This is just a constant thing. Hey, remember all the videos that Marjorie Taylor Greene and that crowd were all talking about whenever Zelensky would be on, saying how much they needed arms, and that them fighting back against the Russians entirely, like, we need support, we need missiles, we need ammunition, we need guns, we need tanks, we need all this stuff. But every time he would come over specifically to have meetings to request that stuff, it was too much, and how dare he. And when he spoke to Congress, how fucking dare, and it shows the sign of weakness, and he's just begging for stuff, and da da da. And then where are they when Prigozhin puts these fucking videos out? Why can't he suck it up according to them? Yeah. I honestly, I don't think Prigozhin makes it past the summer. There's a very strong chance somebody's going to do him in from Putin's side. Kellyanne Conway, of course, we're looking at because of the same shit. Because she's been funneling money to Ginny Thomas. And she's the conduit. Leonard Leo told GOP pollster Kellyanne Conway to bill nonprofit, then use money to pay spouse of Supreme Court Justice. Ouch. But she's on Fox. They'll slow walk it. They'll tiptoe it for her. Eek. People should just live with outcomes they don't like. Isn't that right, dear? Right. Leo instructed Kellyanne Conway to bill a nonprofit group he advises and use that money to pay Ginny Thomas, documents show. The same year, the nonprofit Judicial Education Project, JIP, filed a brief to SCOTUS in a voting rights case. Curious. There's no line. What are we talking about? I mean, we're shocked. This is ongoing. This is before she went and she descended into QAnon world. Good Lord. Greg, is this Gutfeld or Greg Hands? This is British stuff and blah, blah, blah. Greg Abbott. There's a lot of Gregs. Politically, in this country, I think we're very Greg heavy right now. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to all the Gregs that are in the audience, but yeah. So hashtag jobs report. Obviously, we already looked at this. And I like, it's amazing to me how like the right wing is going to go, this fucking jobs report. Yeah, the black unemployment rate dropped to 4.7% in April, the lowest rate in recorded history, and the first time ever that it fell below 5%. Well, that, I would say, is a good thing. Remember how we talked about how like Trump was always bragging that he brought, like, everything was down. Black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, everything, until, of course, he fucking destroyed everything with his ignoring COVID. But he was basically following the trend that happened under Obama as it drifted into, economically just benefiting from that trend. But nothing ever narrowed. It never squoze closer. It was just all just parallel tracks because he wasn't helping any of these groups in particular like he said he was. He was, as a matter of fact, there was some drift in the other direction. While everything was going down. So even if the separation got broader, it still was on a downward slope. So you didn't really notice quite as much. This is an actual contraction between the two. Yeah. Now there's stunning numbers that exceed expectations. Job growth totals 235, exceeding, yeah. Yes, Joe Biden is the jobs president. Agreed. Bag, bada, boom. Bag, boom. Bag, bada, boom. Bag. Yalla, boom. Big, boom, yeah. Bag, boom. Boom. I understand boom. Bada, boom. Bag, bag, boom. Big, bada, boom. Bada. Bada, big, boom. Big, boom. Big, bada. Boom. Yeah. Boom. Big, bada, boom. Big, bada, boom. Big, boom. Big, bada, boom. Big, bada, boom. Big Biden boom. U.S. and look at this. U.S. labor market heats back up as if it's going to overheat. Too many people fucking working. Why are you guys all working? Why is everybody working? If everybody's working, then everybody's got money to spend. If everybody's got money to spend, we're fucked. That's the idea. Like, these are the same people who are like, there aren't enough workers to cover the tax base that will pay for people who need Social Security. And then everybody's working. They're like, fuck. Such a weird thing. This is Biden responding to it. Hold on one second. I got to put my headphones in or I'll get a terrible feedback, but I want to hear this. This is a, you going in there? One second. Bag, bada, boom. Bag, bada, bag, boom. Hold on. Open up, you silly thing. And then this, and switch it over to the headphones. And there we go. All right. Now I'll be able to hear what he says.
The cabinet. Where those cabinet members have most responsibility for getting the major legislation we passed up and running and get shovels in the ground, get things moving, get projects underway. And to discuss what progress we're making. This is the second of those meetings. They've been working straight through and about how we're growing the economy and from the middle out and the bottom up. And so this morning, we got some good news from the jobs report. We added 250,000 jobs last month. That's on top of the 12 million jobs we've already added just since we came in office a little over 2 years ago. Unemployment rate is at 3.4%, which is the lowest in 50 years. Black employment has hit a record low. And the really good news is working age Americans are participating in the labor force at the highest rate in 15 years, not just since the pandemic, in 15 years.
Yeah, that's the other thing, by the way, is labor participation was always their way. Like, yeah, it's low, the 3.4%. That's low because people have just stopped working or looking for jobs, and that's not the case at all.
And the working age women are participating at the highest rate in 75 years. Inflation is now down 40% since last summer. It's come down the last 9 months in a row. We obviously have more work to do, but we're trending in the right direction. And I think we're making real progress. And we're doing it basically, which the theme of everything we're internally working on, by investing in America. Say it again, investing in America. Matter of fact, the Secretary and I were just talking about a project that was taking place in another state. And the reason that we're having a significant investment in America, they said, well, we can't build this unless we go ahead and contract out for a lot of work. She said, no, I'm not going to do that way. Well, guess what? They figured out how to do it in America at the right price, at the right time, at the right state. And so we got a lot more work to do to make, but we're making real progress.
Yeah, he's talking about the Made in America rules that he's set up. And they're like, if you want this funding, if you want this support from the government, you're going to have to buy American and source American. And they're like, we can't do it at that price. And like, okay, well, then we'll find somebody who can. They're like, actually, we can't.
We've already attracted $470 billion in private sector commitments in manufacturing and clean energy technology. And we're bringing back the supply chain to the United States. I don't ever want to be in a position again where a major initiative that we have and a major element of our economy is dependent on a supply chain somewhere else in the world, particularly if it's not particularly friendly. And we're doing all of this, having already, in the first 2 years, reduced the deficit by $1.7 trillion. That's occurred. That's happened. It's done. And the budget I proposed that I proposed back on March 9th.
Yeah. So, like, honestly, at some point, this has just got to be like enraging Republicans. The prime age employment rate just hit 80.8%. That's a 20-year high. Let's see what they're saying.
Is the prime age employment?
This is Yahoo Finance.
This is one of the best labor markets we've seen in the United States for decades, right?
Yes, that's because communism and Joe Biden is trying to destroy the American system as we know it and dollar, and we're a nation in decline. Clearly.
3.4% unemployment, like you mentioned. The number that I watch the closest is the prime age employment rate, the number of people who are between 25 and 54 who are working. We just hit 80.8% on that. That's a 20-year high. So, basically my entire life, this is the best we've ever seen. Even so, while we're doing really well compared to the US historically, I do want to always mention that, when you go and compare it to other countries, sometimes they have a lot tighter labor market. So Canada, our neighbor to the north, of course, they have about the same level of prime age employment. It's at 85% for them. So it is something where we're in this wonderful environment. We're seeing, just so many effects that are great from having a tight labor market. Some of the things that I was really excited to see today was African American employment dropped to 4.7%. That's a record low, and so that's just been tremendous.
Yeah, this is going to eat a giant fucking hole in Trump's bragging rights, and this is one of those facts that Democrats have a lot to be proud of, and B, they can also dangle their nuts on Trump's forehead in the process of bragging about it. It's pretty friggin' great. That's amazing. Yeah. Apple jobs, 253,000 jobs in that just last month. Another stunning job report will mean MAGA Republicans and GOP will be busy deflecting today with things like trans people, book scary people, non-white people. He's trying to make black people all work. This is the Biden. This is the Democrat plantation. Can't believe Fox's prediction was wrong. They're so trustworthy. Fox Business.com. April jobs report likely to point to slowdown in hiring last month. Yes, this is Fox's report from when did this come out? May 4th. This is just yesterday. Likely to point to slowdown. It's a mention of job cuts amid earning reports. Oh dear.
All right, folks. It was the headline that shocked everyone. IBM is going to pause the search for 7,800 jobs. You know why? They say they can fill them with AI. Well, today, Liz Clemens got the CEO of IBM, and here's a sneak peek of what he had to say.
You're going to replace many clerical white-collar jobs with this. And by the way, they're going to expand how much work they do. And therefore, other companies that can't do that will hire those workers to deal with to be on the other side, the receiving end of the AI stuff. Never mind. The rise of AI. Oh, dear God. Pearl clutch.
AI is going to replace many clerical white-collar jobs, and that's the kind which I expect AI will replace over the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's an intellectual forklift. We get it. But the question was for a long time, when the forklift was invented, did the 4 guys that used to carry the pallet physically lose their jobs? No. They each got a forklift. And each one of them could drive a forklift from that point forward. You see. Because the people who produced more got more. All right.
But it's not as simple as jobs go away. The number of jobs, though, perhaps in customer care, in coding, in business process, in developing artificial intelligence, is going to increase so much that the net increase is going to be positive.
Oops, that's not what Fox was sending. They weren't. You can't send that. He was supposed to say the opposite.
There's a movement from one area to the other. And that, by the way, has been the nature of technology for 250 years. It takes away in some areas, but gives better in others.
Joining me now, EmployBridge Chief Workforce Analyst and author of Dive In DEEP, Joni Biley. All right, so listen, you're in the
strategies to advance your career, find balance, and live your best life. Get in there deep. Dig deep. You might not hit bottom, but you'll scrape the shit out of the sides.
In the middle of all of this, Joni, are you seeing, this IBM news, does it surprise you?
Well, I think we're going to continue to see companies kind of tightening.
7,800, though. Are you now, are people going to EmployBridge? Hey, I needed 5,000 folks for this, but we just discovered that ChatGPT could do the job. Give me 3. Are you seeing that kind of dramatic needle move?
They're not there yet.
No. Yeah. They aren't.
But it certainly is coming. The jobs are changing. So we do see companies certainly investing in AI and looking to, really replace some of those lower level skilled jobs like customer service. We've seen manufacturing jobs, logistics roles, but there are other jobs out there. And the key is people.
It's well said. Yeah. Hey, you caught it, right? You caught the whole, use a lot of words, but don't actually say anything part?
People need to learn how to work with AI because AI can also help many people do their jobs better.
Right.
So the jobs of today and the jobs of the future are going to require all of us to
clip volume.
AI
Thank you.
and to know how, hopefully to help us do our jobs better.
So to that point, the World Economic Forum is saying by 2025, just a couple years, 85 million jobs wiped out, gone because of AI, but 97 new jobs in its place. But I don't see the skill sets adjusting that quickly. So it feels like there are going to be a bunch of people who are just out of luck.
Yeah, so there definitely is a skills gap. There are new jobs being created. We do see, jobs are certainly in demand, but
just fucking try really hard to make everything look like shit. U.S. job growth likely cooled in April. This is according to Fox Business. Tracking job growth under Biden. Oh, it's terrible. It's just terrible. It's so terrible. Lower than expected figure on Friday could be a welcoming sign for the U.S. Central Bank, which approved the 10th straight. After alluding to a pause, all eyes focus on the labor market. It's been one of the major sticking points in the Fed's inflationary battle. As unemployment remains at historic lows, while it tends to be a lagging inflationary signal, it is important for the Fed to use the labor market to see the labor market cool now more than ever. Jay Woods, you're an idiot. With the shortening and the elimination of certain supply chains and deglobalization move, and certainly the decoupling with China and others, even to the limited extent that it's actually happening currently or that it's rolling out over the next couple of years, none of that is true anymore. This is a ridiculous notion. You could have the entire United States operating as a managerial class just from technological jobs alone, before you even talk about the availability of material jobs. Maybe Tucker's AI? No, I wouldn't give him that much credit. Thanks. I turned the clip audio up. Thanks, guys. It just that's as high as it kind of went. Which we were talking about the Biden one or the other, because he was kind of quiet on that one as well. Okay, this is these are crypto guys. Understanding layoffs in the crypto world. Just in, Biden takes victory lap on job support, torches Trump and MAGA Republicans over debt. Yep, overall, it's going to be a good one. What was this one? What's this one? No, there was this one right here. Labor Department releases April jobs report soon. The U.S. economy is forecast to have added 180,000, and the unemployment rising slightly at 3.6. John Clear joined Christine Romans to discuss what it all means for the economy. Well, let's see. This was right before it came out. Markets finished lower ahead of critical jobs report. All right, here we go.
Critical jobs report due out at 8:30 a.m. this morning.
These are all
quiet.
quiet.
The economy is forecast to add 180,000 jobs. The jobless rate rising slightly to a still historically low 3.6%. Really pleased to bring in chief economist at Morning Consult this morning, John Lear, in the studio with me. Hi, John. Nice to see you.
Great to see you here.
On a jobs day, what are you expecting from the big?
By the way, Christine Romans is lovely and a very smart woman. Just say for the record, good person.
Labor market.
I think we'll continue to see pretty robust jobs growth. It's still early in the. The impact of that spending contraction on jobs, I think, is going to take a little bit of time to work its way through the system. And the credit contraction that we're seeing on the banking system, again, I think it's a little premature for that to hit jobs right now.
So still strong but cooling.
That's right.
All right, still strong but cooling. The unemployment rate is expected to tick up. We talked to Neela Richardson yesterday from ADP, who's been talking about people coming off the sidelines, and that's a really good sign. That can help nudge up an unemployment rate. Is that something you're seeing?
We have started to see fewer adults say that things like COVID, things like childcare are limiting them from looking for work. So I think that's really encouraging. And in fact, the labor supply has really increased recently. I do get a little concerned about some of these higher income folks. I think it's hard to maybe feel too bad for them, but some of the folks who are working in the tech sector, some folks in the financial services sector as well, that's where I think some of the weaknesses are right now.
So that's where we're seeing.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry. Tech billionaires building apps no one's using, and the bankers that finance them are apparently taking a hit. So shame on you, America. Shame on you.
Layoffs, and that's
right.
where we're seeing those jobs being laid off. The labor market, though, has been overall pretty tight. That has kept wages up, and that has helped feed into the inflation story. A year into these aggressive rate hikes, where are we on the inflation story?
We've made a lot of progress. I think it's premature at this point to say that it's time for a victory lap. The Federal Reserve has rapidly raised interest rates. I think they're likely to pause going forward, but it's not clear to me that inflation necessarily is going to sort of directly fall in the next few months. We're likely to see some surprise, upside surprises.
All those rate hikes, I mean, there's a real concern that something's got to break. And maybe we've already seen that in First Republic and Silicon Valley Bank. But what about the pressure on the banking
See, I told you she was smart. She's a smart lady.
system from all of these rate hikes? Where are we, I guess, in the bank pressure story? I mean, I don't think it's a crisis. I think it's stress in the banking sector. How would you characterize it?
I would say on that front, it's still early days. What we know for sure is that there were some practices in the banking sector, particularly in these mid-sized, smaller state-run banks, that were not consistent with sort of sound risk management practices.
I think that's a nice way of saying it. They were not consistent with sound risk management practices. That's a lovely way of saying they were loaning money out to billionaires on projects that weren't going anywhere and not making them pay the principal for a decade on a very low interest rate, and therefore they were basically throwing principal out a fucking window and hoping some of it blew back in eventually.
And on top of that, after the Fed's recent report, we know that the Fed really wasn't watching and supervising these banks the way that they should be. So my expectation going forward...
Yeah, no, there was 4 years in particular just recently where they weren't checking this shit out at all.
...is that you'll see more and more of these sort of issues, particularly on the credit side of things going forward.
It's almost like crypto was bullshit and almost burned the economy down. But unlike credit default swaps that were based on people's houses, not everybody was bought into crypto the way people have to have a house. All credit debt should be limited to 10% interest. If you did that, there are a bunch of people who would never get any credit. They would just say that's not worth it. The risk is too high. You would get that. Peter, you could absolutely enforce that, but you can't force people to lend. So it would just eliminate a certain group of people from being able to get any loans at all. That's just materially what would happen. And again, if that's your thoughts on the Apple savings account, it's obviously that they're forming their own like cash bank situation, just letting it sit there because everybody was like, oh, crypto is going to be the thing. And so all these companies were looking into storage of crypto and maintenance of it and getting stuff in and how do you buy it and how do you sell it and da-da-da. And Apple just decided at one point that fuck crypto. Why don't you just have a debit card? Why, if it's a savings bank, it's worth it to them, especially as savings rates go up. Even if it's for nothing, a company that big can just sit on that cash and not use it. They don't have to loan it out to make any money. As a matter of fact, think of it as if you use their services, you're going to tend to use all their other services as well. Imagine, if you will, that the laptop now represents your bank, and you have a Wells Fargo account. More than likely, you would use the Wells Fargo laptop they produced as opposed to a Chase Bank laptop or something if everybody put out their own, right? So you're more apt to stay in the Apple ecosystem. That in and of itself is an interest payment. Have I seen the hemp batteries? Not in person. An Apple credit union makes sense too? Absolutely. Yeah, because they don't need the profit. And as a matter of fact, it's counterintuitive to them. So they could run at an incredibly low rate because the idea is that more than likely where they'll get you is in your phone. there are enough people in the world who are like, well, obviously, if I'm going to have a fucking Apple card and Apple savings account and use it on an Android, yeah, it's a loss leader. Yeah, it doesn't have to be successful in the traditional sense. These days, to get a job in the computer world, IT, if you know more than the person to interview you, you're screwed. Apple Credit Union makes it, yes. Apple can bite you. They can? You just let them? That's terrible. Airplane batteries made of hemp? No, we'll be going with, we don't need high cars. There's already an Apple Credit Union here in Virginia, but it's for educators. Yeah, because they use that to leverage the cost of the computers back in the day. They want people who can task, but I don't know if to be a threat. That's interesting. I'm sure it depends on the company. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. Let's go back to... So the jobs report obviously is big news today. Karl Marx's birthday is today. And like all these folks, like on the day of this jobs report, fucking... look, Marx was a racist. Marx found that the only way he could denigrate Jews more was to use the N-word to describe them. I posted a quote earlier about his feeling towards Mexicans. Like he was a big believer in white supremacy. He was a big white supremacist, quite frankly. And he didn't consider Jews white. Let's see. Yeah. So a lot of people are like, I like Marx. Marx is he was an awful person. And Marxism as a system doesn't work in our modern world at all. Just it's fucking comic book talk. And also I pointed this out recently when Marianne Williamson tweeted about him, but Professor Richard Wolff is a fraud and lied on his doctoral thesis. Coldplay is playing in Kuala Lumpur. Good for them, I guess. Cool. In November, I see tickets are on sale. Cool. Well, so Leonard Leo is the other billionaire involved in funneling money to the Thomases. Yeah. And the reason you're going to hear about the whole Biden family there's the whole Ed Buddy and China Buddy, blah, 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 is to cover for the fact that there are direct influence payments here. And they don't care. They do not care. But this is going to grow because there's enough to track it. Directed fees to Clarence's wife urged no mention of Ginny. That's fun. Shall we look at the article? Let's dive in. Judicial activist directed fees to Clarence Thomas's wife urged, quote, no mention of Ginny. Told GOP pollster Kellyanne to build a nonprofit, then use the money to pay the spouse of Supreme Court Justice, conservative judicial activist, I can say it fast if I want to, Leonard Leo, arranged for the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas to be paid tens of thousands of dollars for consulting work just over a decade ago, specifying that her name be left off billing paperwork, according to documents reviewed by the Washington Post. In January 2012, Leo instructed the GOP pollster Kellyanne Conway to bill a nonprofit group he advises and use that money to pay Virginia Ginny Thomas, the documents show. Same year, the nonprofit, the Judicial Education Project, filed a brief to the Supreme Court in a landmark voting rights case. Leo, a key figure in a network of nonprofits that has worked to support the nomination of conservative judges, told Conway that he wanted her to give Ginny Thomas another $25K, the documents show. He emphasized that the paperwork should have no mention of Ginny, of course. Conway's firm, the polling company, sent Judicial Education Project a $25,000 bill that day, per Leo's instruction. It listed the purposes, supplement for Constitution polling and opinion consulting. In all, according to the documents, the polling company paid Thomas's firm, Liberty Consulting, $80,000 between June 2011 and June 2012. Nice work if you can get it. And it expected to pay $20K more before the end of 2012. The documents reviewed by the Post do not indicate the precise nature of any work Thomas did for the Judicial Education Project for the polling company. The arrangement reveals that Leo, a former longtime Federalist Society leader and friend of the Thomases, has functioned not only as an ideological ally of Clarence Thomas's, but also has worked to provide financial remuneration to his family. And it shows Leo arranging for the money to be drawn from a nonprofit that soon would have an interest before the court. The polite struggle to do anything about Clarence Thomas. And then Harlan Crow paid for the tuition of Thomas's nephew or grandkid. In response to questions from the Post, Leo issued a statement defending the Thomases. It is no secret that Jenny Thomas has a long history of working on issues within the conservative movement. And part of that work has involved gauging public attitudes and sentiment. Yeah, because you always see her out in public gauging attitudes and sentiment. She fucking sat on QAnon boards, like message boards, just yammering with lunatics all the time. Fuck are you talking about? COVID-19 and the World Health Organization is breaking. The World Health Organization declares the end of the COVID-19 global public health emergency. All right. The COVID-19 era has officially ended. Well, not for people who have long COVID, for example. And let's see, is all needed to avoid the majority of deaths. 3 times. This is a big thing on ivermectin and blah, blah, blah. People still hammering that shit down. Yep, the end of it. WHO declares the end of COVID-19's public health emergency of international concern, a FIIC. First declared on January 30th, 2020, after refusing twice earlier. My prediction, COVID surges will be back in late 2023, maybe mid 2023. Stay safe, folks. Possibly. We have treatments now, which we did not have at the time, and that makes all the difference. Zelensky is resigning from the CDC effective June 30th, over 700,000 under her 700 something. You're missing a zero. It's very weird. New study: COVID-19 vaccine significantly increased the risk of damage to the blood vessels in the eyes. Risk continues rising for months after vaccinations and may reflect toxicity of spike protein in the entire body's small blood cells, or not. This is from nature.com. Risk assessment of retinal vascular occlusion after COVID-19 vaccine. Abstract. Vaccines are associated with several ocular manifestations. Emerging evidence has been reported, however, that causality between the two is debatable. Because it could be that people who had COVID or didn't know they had COVID or got vaccinated and still cared, blah, blah. Okay. We aim to investigate the risk of retinal vascular occlusion after COVID-19 vaccination. And by the way, which kind? The mRNAs or the Johnson & Johnson's record study used the TriNet X global network and included individuals vaccinated with COVID-19 vaccines between 2020 and 2022. We excluded individuals with a history of retinal vascular occlusion. To compare the risks of we employed multivariable adjusted Cox proportion hazards, 2 years after vaccination, ratio, let's see, retinal occlusion in 2 years after, with an overall hazard ratio of 2.19, 95% confidence interval between 2 and 239. The cumulative incidence of retinal vascular occlusion was significantly higher in the vaccinated cohort compared to the unvaccinated cohort 2 years and 12 weeks after vaccination. The risk of retinal vascular occlusion compared to unvaccinated cohort increased 2 weeks after vaccination and persisted for 12 weeks. Additionally, individuals with first and second dose of BNT 162b2 and mRNA 1273 had significant increased risk of retinal vascular occlusion 2 years following the vaccination, with no disparity was detected between brand and dose. This large multi-center study strengthens the findings of previous cases. Retinal vascular occlusion may not be a coincidental finding after COVID-19 vaccination. That's the ultimate conclusion. May not be a coincidental finding at a 2.19% occurrence rate. And by the way, how many people think that like age cohorts for vaccination factor into this shit? Because older people were getting vaccinated sooner, and they tend to have cardiovascular issues and the timing of it, whatever. Anyways, between 2020 and 2022, the difference. All right, whatever. Also, when's are they talking about people who, I guess, had the vaccines tested on them too? Anyways, no longer. Okay, so that's a good thing though. We're no longer we're no longer in a worldwide COVID-19 emergency. And unemployment is trending. So we're almost there. Look at that. Dun, dun, dun. Yep. Let's see. Wow. Unemployment is at a 54-year low of 3.4%, 253,000 jobs added in April. Never tell me that Democrats and President Biden are weak on the economy. This is because President Biden's leadership. We should be grateful and proud. I agree. And by the way, can I show you guys again how to handle ads on Twitter? Click there. Click there. So simple. Unemployment rate for Black Americans at 4.7 is the all-time low, below 5% for the first time in U.S. history. It's almost like voting for someone who gives a shit actually makes a difference. Inflation is slowing. There's no need to punish workers. I agree with Robert Reich on that. He's not always right, but he is in that case. Unemployment rate ticked back down to 3.4% in April, the lowest rate since 1953. If you're a Demcom staffer and fail to blow this up today, you're not doing your job. Agreed. The Black unemployment rate fell 4.7%. Awesome. That's going to make the rounds today. And it should. Dink. Dink. Yep. This is gonna like really, like, we're gonna hear it's all gonna be like Hunter Biden and trans kids all fucking day, isn't it? General election, that's in another country. SCOTUS corruption, that's an obvious reason. Bakhmut, that has to do with what we looked at with Yevgeny Prigozhin bitching about the fact that that they gained a little bit of a piece of it and then lost it, lost all these dudes doing it. Oh, elephant. The Epic Times, get out of here. Yeah, same shit. So there we go. We've covered most of it today. And then let's jump into, where we go? In here. Because it is Frid-Ai. Oh, by the way, Crooks and Liars, love you guys. This is pretty funny. Apparently, there's a rat inside the Trump group, inside Mar-a-Lago, whispering to the DOJ. And since Trump's never going to figure out who it is, the more he knows that they exist, the better. Because if you want him to sweat and be all angry and weird, this is how you do it, especially before his CNN town hall. Is there a mole at Mar-a-Lago? If a report from the New York Times are right, there may very well be. The DOJ has issued a new wave of subpoenas in recent weeks regarding Trump's mishandling of classified documents and is reportedly related to the confidential cooperation of a witness who worked at Mar-a-Lago. Ooh, doggy. Yeah, he's got a rat. It's so good. It's just so good. It's the laundress mats. It's the laundress mats.
Moon River.
Yeah, it's that good. Just saying. And this, okay, so the whole thing is right. But all right, so back to, hold on, chat room. Let's say hi. Don't forget to give a thumbs up, like, support the show, blah blah blah. As we go through all these kind of things, and I try to, like, it's not like I'm carrying your elbow while you're going through this stuff. But I would like to say that a lot of the stuff that I continue to tell you guys that I sometimes will catch shit about turns out to continue being true. I mean, just saying. Is that Fletch? Yes, it is. That was...
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
Yeah. Just saying, all the worry that everyone's telling you to worry and worry. They're saying worry. Don't worry. Stop worrying. Worry is just weaponized imagination. If you can do something about it, do something about it. If you can't do something about it, let it go. Let it go. Focus on bettering yourself and bettering your skills at arguing your point of view and those kind of things. But like I watched a whole thing. I'll show you this. Shall we jump into this? I watched a whole thing this morning on the guy who quit working at Google because hold on. Hold on. I'm going to put this in save to watch later because I just saw something come up. And I've got to go to library and then this video. Yeah, here it is. The godfather of AI. Remember that dude's whole conversation? AI is going to be smarter than us and ruin our lives. And dear God, in Herben. Let me show you right here, if I may. This is from the BBC, and it's about Geoffrey Hinton. Geoffrey Hinton is the guy who worked at Google in AI, and he's quitting because they're like, he quit over the dangers of AI, which is, in this particular instance, I would say it's much more akin to some of the people who stayed on during the Trump administration, because if there are no adults in the room, this motherfucker's going to go crazy. One would think that's where you would stay. I'm going to guess Hinton's going to end up getting a consulting job with like 5 other companies, or quite frankly, they've upscaled what he was doing so much that they don't need him, and so it became an argument. But we'll see. This was his this BBC report on
of artificial intelligence has quit his job at Google.
They call him the Godfather because he made artificial intelligence an offer it couldn't refuse. Well, it could refuse it. Actually, there's a lot it can't do.
Of the dangers of AI. Dr. Geoffrey Hinton's pioneering research on deep learning and neural networks has paved the way for current AI systems like ChatGPT.
BBC News. Warnings over dangers of AI. Again, calling it AI is part of the problem. If it's intelligent, it's synthetic, and if it's artificial, then you're being fooled by something that isn't actually intelligent.
PT.
I'm going to fight you on this. Just get used to it. Right? You're like, Hal, you're banging your head against the wall. I don't give a shit. Just relax, chat, stand down.
But in a lengthy interview with the New York Times, Dr. Hinton said he now regretted his work and is worried that AI technology will flood the internet with misinformation. Google responded in a statement saying, "We remain committed to a responsible approach to AI."
Which was a statement made by ChatGPT. It's so ironic.
Dr. Hinton has been...
Jeff Dean doesn't even exist. He's a character created by Synth.io.
telling the BBC how these systems can know so much.
Have access to so much information. Knowledge is a debatable word.
The kind of intelligence we're developing is very different from the intelligence we have.
So it might not even be intelligence. Again, part of the problem is we're getting overly conscious about labels these days, guys, especially when they don't fit.
We're biological systems, and these are digital systems. And the big difference is that with digital systems, you have many copies of the same set of weights, the same model of the world. And all these copies can learn separately, but share their knowledge instantly. So it's as if you had 10,000 people, and whenever one person learned something, everybody automatically knew it.
Yes, and if that thing is wrong, would automatically undermine the functionality of the entire system. It's one of the reasons why The Last of Us has some flaws as far as disconnected mushroom people.
And that's how these chatbots can know so much more than any one person.
Well, Dr. Hinton...
They don't cut it off right there. What's wrong with you? They don't know so much more. They have access to that much more information because they don't have time limits. Mortality is an aspect of time limits. And by the way, it's how we address where we put our attention and our effort, because we've only got so much time. We've only got a limited amount.
It also told the BBC the rate of progress is worrying.
Right now, what we're seeing is things like GPT-4 eclipses a person in the amount of general knowledge it has. And
Right. But so does an encyclopedia.
Eclipses them by a long way. In terms of reasoning, it's not as good, but it does already
And that might be the key, reasoning.
do simple reasoning. And given the rate of progress, we expect things to get better quite fast. So we need to worry about that. Right now, they're not more intelligent than us, as far as I can tell. But I think they soon may be.
Well, first of all, you got to define what intelligence means as opposed to reactionary or prescriptive. Tell it what to do, and it grabs a piece of information and regurgitates it in a form that sounds like natural language. Even still, that's not the existence of intelligence. Even this like hyper pattern recognition, which is what the reason he's called the godfather of AI is because Hinton started the sort of building on the concept of large language models and built something where they could, predictive language models, where because of habitual linguistic use, they could put in 140 sentences and then ask, put a word in and see if it would assume the next word correctly that you were going to put in because of habitual ways of talking. That's still not intelligence. That's just that's more pattern recognition. And again, this goes towards synthetic versus artificial. What he might be talking about is artificial intelligence. It's the illusion of intelligence.
Well, earlier I spoke to Junaid,
yes,
author of Mathematical Intelligence. I asked what he makes of the AI warning.
I think this one is to be taken seriously because of where it's coming from. I wouldn't take Elon Musk's own warnings particularly seriously because he's not an AI expert. Jeffrey Hinton, on the other hand, is one of the pioneers of artificial intelligence, and he's also been very specific in laying out a hierarchy of risks and concerns. And so he mentions the threats that AI pose to the workforce and to the spread of misinformation. But
by the way, it's not even so much that AI will get correct really fast. The problem with AI as it stands right now is what they call hallucinations, which I would call bullshitting. That AI itself, because it uses predictive language, will just bullshit its way through a conversation by following the next expected word. And that's not information. That is not intelligence. That's just flim-flam. It's garbage.
The concerns that he's raised around existential risk.
Also, by the way, it's created by the limitation intentionally put on for safety, which is not giving AI full access to the internet, so it can't check its work, but it expects, the person who's using it expects it to give an answer, so it fills in the gaps, like Jurassic Park using fucking frog DNA.
I think are to be taken seriously, and I think it's important to recognize that those risks are not premised on AI becoming conscious or gaining sentience. We're not talking about a Terminator doomsday scenario, but it's the idea that these technologies are able to amass information and process information so effectively that if you put them in the hands of bad human actors, they can wreak all kinds of havoc. And I think that is something we all need to pay attention to.
So tell us.
Yeah, but also if you have an answering AI, for example, if you just use, let's say you have a disinfo AI, the response to it is an info AI from a trusted source, and or a superseding source. Meaning, let's say China sets one up to bullshit the American electorate in English and fuck with our elections. The U.S. sets one up to respond to it and go, this is actually an attack by this thing we recognize. This is not a real person. This is a AI chatbot from China doing this thing. And then the other version of that is the United States or Western countries or whatever just talking about a general story. The CCP doesn't like it, so they set up a chatbot that refutes reality. And since the people in the country don't have access to the reality, to the figures that show that work, they can keep the truth hidden from their people. This is what the back and forth will be. There's going to be a tit for tat in the world of AI.
A bit more about that, because he referred, didn't he, to bad actors who would use AI for bad things. So tell us a bit more about what you think he means by that.
Porn. I'm sorry.
So I think one of the challenges with these chatbots is we don't fundamentally understand how they work. We know that they absorb large amounts of information, and then you can input a prompt, and it will give you an output. It might write an essay for you. It might generate an image or a video. And so the challenge is that as these systems become more complex, we can issue them with certain tasks. So I might ask a chatbot to go online and find the cheapest train ticket for me, and I might give it access to my bank account, and it will be able to carry out that task, and the stakes there seem fairly low. But you can imagine in a different context where the stakes are a lot higher, these systems might be weaponized to carry out a whole range of tasks, and they will execute those tasks in ways that we don't fully understand. And I think the concern that people like Geoffrey Hinton have is that there could be unintended consequences. These systems behave in ways that are very different to humans, so there's no real account for how they will go about achieving their objectives.
Right. To the point where they are so easy to misinterpret or misunderstand that even they, until they fix this part of it, until they are more understandable, will come up with stuff that just looks weird. Look at any of the early pictures of like where you know everybody's got 6 fingers in an AI picture or those kind of situations. When you're trying to get to more complex stuff, it's going to be a long way before it reaches a point where you can just kind of not as slow as we might think, or not as it'll happen quicker than we believe. But there's going to be a point where you're going to, if it tried to wreck the society of some country or attack an ideology or blah, 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 it will work in some small categories, but that as it tries to self-propel and expand itself, it will get more and more ridiculous as it gets input that doesn't factor with what it was expecting and create kind of an absurdist version of itself.
And especially if those objectives are rooted in some kind of malicious intent. So if an authoritarian...
Right. They can try to use it, but if they don't understand how it works any more than its actual function, it will bullshit so much that the public they are attempting to attack or manipulate, you're going to need humans on those controls. You're going to need people, almost as many as you already have, to weed through what AI produces. Otherwise, it's just going to become fucking digital widgets just on a pile. Because nobody's going to buy it. It's going to look fake. There's a shit ton of that stuff on YouTube already, and it's the engagement is dick on all of it.
Example says to a chatbot system, help me to reassert my grip on a population. There's no real knowing how a very complex computer-based system would go about achieving that, what kinds of manipulations it might employ.
Right. But it might right now and for the near future, and until we do have a way to grapple with what it puts out versus what it takes in, it's going to come up with shit like tickle them with nukes. And you're going to go, what the fuck does that even mean? Never mind.
And so the lack of transparency is something that we really need to be concerned about.
A couple of months ago, more than 1,000
Yeah, but that opaqueness is natural to the system itself.
tech leaders called for a 6-month moratorium on the development of new AI systems because of what they said was the tech posing a profound risk to society and humanity. I mean, is it too late?
It may well be.
It is.
I think we have to adopt some spirit of optimism and recognize that we do have a huge degree of human intelligence as well. And now more than ever, we need to summon that. And one thing that Geoffrey Hinton does...
I'm here. I'm doing my job.
...does emphasize is that...
I feel summoned. Is there like a big brain bat signal that they shine that I can show up?
Intelligence, the kind espoused by these chatbots, is very different to human intelligence. And that may present an opportunity for us to tap into our own human strengths and understand how we can behave and cooperate.
Where'd they get a picture of how my brain works? What the hell is going on?
With one another
the BBC has hacked my brain. Oh my, look, fucking hell. Look at the fucking graphics that they're putting up because this conversation might be boring. BBC, come on. You're England. Your television is allowed to be boring. Just let it be boring.
Allow us to regulate these
Write an essay about artificial intelligence.
technologies and rein them in. But I will say, Jeffrey Hinton has been working on these technologies for several decades. There are many within the space that have been issuing these warnings for several years. So his own warning does seem to be coming quite late in the day. And there is a sense that maybe the genie's out of the bottle now, and there's no real accounting for what happens next.
We need.
Agreed. And this is, there's a lot of like Hintons everywhere right now because he said this.
Hi, I'm Craig Smith, and this is Eye on AI.
Hi, Craig. So, yeah.
This week I speak to Jeff Hinton, who has lived at the
This is 2 years ago.
outer reaches of machine learning research since an aborted attempt at a carpentry career a half-century ago. After that brief dogleg, he came back into line with his illustrious ancestors, George Boole, the father of Boolean logic, and George Everest, British Surveyor General of India, and eponym of the world's tallest mountain.
Lovely. Get on with it, friend. Hold on one second. Oops, I turned the audio up and I was trying to turn this thing. Hold on. It's Frid-Ai, folks. This is a big part of it. Ding, 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 ding. There he is.
Work. I hope you, or that you need to introduce yourself. I do want to sort of recap what's gone on in the last year. It's been quite a year. Capsule.
This is 2 years ago. This dude has no fucking idea.
Had sort of faded from view, at least from the layman's point of view, and resurfaced at NeurIPS last December with your introduction of stacked capsule autoencoders. Then in February at the AAAI or AAAI conference, you talked about capsule.
Which is how, they're trying to develop systems where self-driving cars can repair themselves and change their own tire.
Networks is key to unsupervised learning. And in April, you revived the idea of backpropagation as a learning function in the brain with the introduction of neural gradient representation by activity differences, or
for the who's at home, what they're discussing here is that he introduced and was part of the groups that introduced the stuff that's put us in the situation where they are right now 2+ years ago, specifically the big advances that set this shit in motion. It's like he fired a torpedo and then he wants out as after it's already struck. This is these are this dude's interviews.
Smith, and this
is
Eye on AI.
This is him.
Pink elephant. Notice the words pink and elephant refer to things in the world. So what's actually happening is, I'd like to tell you what's going on inside my head.
Hi, I'm Craig Smith, and this is Eye on AI.
Hi, Craig. That's not a real boardroom, and I don't really think you have. You live in Toledo.
Throughout his career to.
Yeah, we know. No. Yeah, we got it. Just bring him. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, cool.
One thing about backpropagation is you need to have a perfect model of the forward system. That is, in backpropagation, it's easiest to think about for a layered net, but it also works for recurrent nets. For a layered net, you do a forward pass where the input comes in at the bottom and goes through these layers. So the input might be pixels, and what comes out the top might be a classification of, is it a cat or a dog? You go forwards through the layers, and then
I'll nerd out in a second. Give me a second.
You look at the error in the output. If it says cat when it should say dog, that's wrong. And you'd like to figure out how to change all the weights in the forward pass.
And then you spank the computer.
That next time it's more likely to say the right category rather than the wrong one. So you have to figure out how a change in a weight would affect how much it gives the right answer. And then you want to go off and change all the weights in proportion to how much they help in getting the right answer. And backpropagation is a way of figuring out that gradient, a way of figuring out how much a change in the weight would make the system have less.
So in a decision of whether something is a cat or a dog, there are a myriad of factors that go into it. Body shape is one, but having 4 legs and a tail, relatively short ears compared to an elephant, let's say. Those aren't necessarily factors. The behavioral aspect, they both have canines, they both have sharp teeth. Their behavioral differences, their skeletal differences that are clear. There's more uniformity in a cat's shape than there is in a dog shape. So if it has more variability outside the shape of the cat shape, then it might be a dog. That helps you trend in that direction. Then you start checking the length of the nose to the relation of the forehead, and then the type of tail, the fluidity of the tail. Does the tail stiff, or does it actually curve when it moves, if it moves at all? There's factors, like, because you've made a bunch of decisions over time because you recognize the difference between a cat and a dog when you were young, but your brain went through this process. And that's what he's saying is, like, we have to go back and find out why it thought the fact that it said cat when it meant dog, or dog when it meant cat, and it thought having 4 legs was more important than the nose in this particular case, which would have told you it was a dog.
Error. And then you change the weight in proportion to how much it helps. And obviously, if it hurts, you change it in the opposite direction.
Right.
Now, backpropagation looks like the forward pass, but it goes backwards. It has to use the same connectivity pattern with the same.
By the way, just so you know, this is the kind of stuff I watch on my own. just so you know, especially when we're dealing with stuff as important as AI, and it is not surprising at all. It's amazing to me that, like, this dude, the guy from GPT-4 and the Future of AI, is on a channel with 12,000 subscribers as a guest. Hinton's on there, 12,000 subscribers. This guy has people on his guests with this few subscribers is kind of amazing. Although having Ilya Sutskever on, obviously he got more views than he's used to having, and people aren't subscribing quite yet. But there's a lot of this going on in the world of just like, what's AI going to do? What's AI going to do? We're going to AI ourselves all to death, and we're going to AI the crap out of ourselves. And oh no. Hold on, let me open the chat room. Hi. Do I use CC Creative? You mean Adobe? What do you mean CC? There's a lot of CCs out there. Spotify's AI DJ, right? Nerd. Yes, I did. I got over my phone tracking listening. There's nothing to do about it. I might as well use the assistant to find a restaurant near me and go straight to the shopping sites I get. Yeah, it doesn't listen the way you think it does. It's more habitual than that. There's you give off way more signals than just the shit you mention in front of your phone. I'm just saying. That said, TikTok is always listening. If you have TikTok on your phone, take it off. TikTok is malware. There's a couple other pieces of a couple other apps like that, but just go through and see what has access to your mic and when. Yes, Adobe Creative CC. I do have that. Yes. Yeah, Firefly. I've been looking into it. I signed up for it. I asked for, advanced whatever. I haven't gotten it yet because they don't love me. They just don't think I'm important. I don't know why. That said, let me do something real quick, and we'll end on this because it's always kind of a good sign of where we are. When this one little site I look at sometimes called Futurepedia came online, when I was looking at it on, when was it? Early December, I think is when I discovered it. Something like that. It had like 4 pieces of software. Now there are 2,356 AI tools and 54 categories of stuff. Here's just 27 tools that were added today. There's a lot of it's prompts, like how to prompt it, how to talk to it. There's a lot of AI translation going on because nobody quite knows how to talk to it. This is one of the ones that I want to show you. AgentRunner.ai is a platform that leverages the power of GPT-4 to create and train fully autonomous AI agents. Key features and advantages. No technical knowledge or programming skills are required. Users can set goals for their agents and let them decide how to achieve them. Full visibility over agent actions. Users can see the memories accumulated by their agents. Cloud-based platform. Unique agent personalities. They can talk to you like Jarvis and whatever. They don't verbally. You can attach 11 labs to them and make it have a voice if you want to. Frequent updates, and there you go. This is just one company. This is a company that is, you create something and go, hey, go look this up for me. I want a research assistant. Go study this topic and give me an outline of this relating to this particular topic. This is just one of many. And you can use these kind of autonomous AI agents to create your own AI, which is why I say unequivocally that the cat is out of the fucking bag. So enough people have downloaded AutoGPT to their home computers that they're advancing so quickly that even moderate levels of this, you know how we always used to talk about how your phone has more computing capability than all the computers that put a man on the moon, that shit. Okay, same thing is true of AutoGPT on your own desktop. Is it capable of what the image generators and the thought generators and the writing generators like ChatGPT or ChatGPT do? No. Is it close enough to outpace almost people who don't have it? Of course. And it's just going to expand because people are going to use it to expand itself. Most of the current the interesting thing is, like, countries like Russia and China and Iran and Saudi Arabia and all these other countries, quite frankly, they are incapable of having societally things like ChatGPT and the like, because their structure of government is, they need to have somebody between you and information. That's how they stay afloat. We don't have that in the United States. And on one end, it makes us uniquely susceptible to manipulation, because people can come in and pump propaganda into our social media and do all kinds of shit like that. Or they can spam reporters with fake stories until one of them takes the bite and runs with it. But we also have access of rebuttal material, which we wouldn't have in another country. So it evens itself out, I think, better in our direction. And ultimately, these AI agents, all of this stuff, including the coding stuff, there's no way that China or or Saudi Arabia or any of these countries, Iran, where you need a VPN to get out of the country, is going to let people use a fully functioning, GPT or large language model system to code. Because, I mean, you're just creating like a hacker bazaar where people don't even have to develop the skills. Where you used to be able to keep track of your hackers. Now you can't anymore. So they can't let the entire thing in there. Oh, and okay, right before I leave, let me show you a Hugging Face real quick. So, this is an AI community website, which was sort of fucking nothing just a little bit ago. But this is where the AI community building the future. The build, train, and deploy state-of-the-art AI models powered by the reference open source in machine learning. More than 5,000 organizations are using Hugging Face right now. You can create your own, and you can train your own AI models within it in a bunch of different areas. Image classification, object detection, question answering, summarization, all these like different tasks. You can build one of your own, or you can build on one that already exists. Transformers are our natural language processing library, and our hub is now open to all ML models that support things like Flare, Asteroid, ESP.NET, Pynote, which is like Python-based programming. There's an inference API. You can borrow the knowledge and put it into your own shit. It's a lot. Oh, and a distilled version of BERT, smaller, faster, cheaper, and lighter. BERT is is a reference to, I guess, the Chinese Ernie. Meta learning language model, like this site, and they have their own AI. Hugging Face is becoming it, like there's a making the community's best AI chat models also available. Why don't we just talk to it? Hi, this application for demonstrating purposes AI is active research with known problems such as bias generation and misinformation. Do not use this application for high stakes decisions or advice. Good idea. Okay, so there we go. So this is which model it's using if you ask it for shit. And you create a new chat Basically, and then you go write an email from a Bulliz, code a snake game, assist in a task. These are some examples of what it can do, and then you ask it to do it in the bottom, and then go code. Let's see, code a button on. Let's see, code a button using the Elgato Stream Deck. Hold on, I can type. Elgato Stream Deck. Plugin architecture that plays a GIF. I don't know. Let's see if that even does. Sure, some sample Python code for playing a GIF using the Elgato Stream Deck software. There you go. So you take this and then you copy this code into the programming part with the Elgato Stream Deck plugin. You need to set up your computer to run this script. Whenever the specified button on the Stream Deck is pressed, you can learn more about setting up custom scripts within the Elgato Stream Deck by reading the documentation here, but this is it. And then you attach where it says GIF, whatever this, whatever the GIF is. This is it. This is the file. And you just replace that part of the text with whatever the GIF is on your hard drive, and voy fucking la, there it is. See what I mean? You guys see what's up? Yeah. This is, and by the way, this is natural. If you look at the work of Alan Turing and Claude Shannon in the initial developing of computer and calculating systems, you will recognize that the entire move that we've seen in computers since that time, if indeed we're not living in an ancestor simulation created by Claude Shannon initially right after he created a supercomputer within a couple of years of inventing the user interface that created our environment. We're all not in little gelatin things experiencing a subjective world. That's for another time. That the idea has been that the calculations, instead of flipping fucking switches on a giant physical machine, they eventually became zeros and ones. Those zeros and ones began to stack, and they became so many of them that no person could switch them. So we created analogous systems, user interfaces. And that's all this is. This is just the natural advancement of that. This is just another user interface. Instead of having to type and code, you're talking to a computer. We were all heading in that direction. That's where it's been. That's where it's gonna fucking go. And there's nothing artificial intelligence and sentient about it at all. This is simply another step in user interface. And these motherfuckers who think, I think it's alive and she loves me. And when they're talking to a fucking chatbot that is built on predictive conversation, all that tells you is that you're fucking predictable. Right. It's right. Keyboard, how quaint. Exactly. Computer. Right. So, look, this is, don't be afraid of AI. It's yet another step in the user interface of humans and their technology. The calculations of it are still going to play out in human form, and even at the point where we start building fucking robots, we're going to have laws about which robots can interact with what kind of humans, and there'll be fights about it in court and all kinds of shit, and people will break a robot, and you'll go, I want my robot to be more resilient so some dickhead can't smash it when it's on its way to the store to pick up my stuff. And they go, okay, but it can only have this kind of grip strength. Well, what if it can only carry this amount of load? That's wrong. And then you go, okay, well, you can get a license for one that's an industrial robot that can carry heavier loads, and that's how it's going to play out, folks. And yes, we are closer to bipedal robots walking amongst us than we are to the introduction of the cell phone. How long ago the introduction of the cell phone was in the past, the robots are closer in the future. Okay? And many of us can remember pre-cell phone. Remember that? Okay. Kids right now, little kids like my son's age, are going to remember a time when robots were not readily around us all the time. They're going to go, I remember that. Fucking, like, we had this little one who was like, they're going to be talking about initial robots that are going around. And there are a couple that are coming out. Shall I show you? The Tesla bot's a bunch of bullshit. He's just using the upper body thing to replace humans on a factory floor, which is fine because people don't need to lose fingers working on that kind of shit. There's people who are good with their hands will be better suited to make things with their hands that are permanent and keepable and appreciated by their fellow humans. But let's see, Amazon home robot. Where's this thing? So Amazon's got this little guy, Astro. Asshole. This is it's not. Let me see if I can open this up. There you go. This guy right here. This is Astro. This is the Amazon home bot that rolls around and you can look through the camera on him, and it has this camera that has an extender on it, like a periscope, so it can look up on counters and that kind of shit. And it's got a little charging station, and you can turn off its mics and its camera by just smacking it, essentially. And it's got a little personality. And this, while, it looks like something out of a Pixar movie, and that's kind of the goal, using available shit. Understand that there will be a period where this will look as dated and useless and ridiculous as, I don't know, like this. Remember the Sony robot dog, the Aibo? Remember that guy? They still have versions of it. I mean, I think it's cute. I remember the first. Let's see. Yeah, this dude. Pretty cute. The robot puppy. There you go. Now they've got a new one that's updated and runs on their own version of AI. Aibo. Get it? Robot puppy powered by AI. That's this guy right here. And I remember when these things first fucking came out. The first litter of them, you pet them, and then they would fetch stuff, and it had a little ball that would push around, and it's just really weird. You can have virtual food. It does tricks and it dances and da-da-da. And they've been making like these advances in it for years. It was very hip, and then it fell out of favor because they're expensive, and then it's come back. Because they've been making, that's hilarious. Just fake peeing on it's ridiculous. And these new ones are based on this idea that it can develop its personality based on how it's treated and that kind of stuff. And it's an exploratory tool in a lot of ways. But this was, I remember when these first came out, and the first versions of them were clunky and ridiculous and silly. And you're like, oh, it's basically a toy. It doesn't really matter. It's just for rich dickheads. And now they're using them, like, look at the movement on this thing. Like, this is, like, the stuff it does comparatively. And then you're just going to get, he barks, there you go. The stuff, they're going to get, like, cloth skins over top of them to soften them up instead of just being these plastic dogs. And then that's all she wrote. If your kid wants a dog, they're going to go, well, we'll see. We'll get you an Aibo first, see if you can take care of it, and then we'll get you the real thing. This is let's see. He eventually learns his name. There's this. These are his tricks that he does. This is 2 years ago. This is even up to date. Why is it twerking? That's awkward. Don't twerk. Why are you twerking? And it twerks and it pees and it does a lot of things. So this is the... That's and this is in Japan, obviously. So they're using it. There's a lot of shit on the Japanese site about this on the Japanese YouTube stuff. Living with Aibo. It's got 8,000 subscribers, and here's another. Oh, this one's. When the fuck did this one come out? 3 months ago. Oh, there's a black one. Black dog. This is so Japanese. There's a pink one and a tan one. This is like its setup demo when it starts. It's not spooky at all. The fuck is that outside? What? There's a bunch of robot dogs on the lawn. Isn't that cute? Why are they coming closer? Has everybody seen the OK Go videos? Yes. It's an Aibo flash mob, right? Yeah, so it twerks. That's not weird. Fake dog farts, and fake pees. Aibo at your baby. At least the movement is smooth. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's improving all the fucking time. Again, these are going to look ridiculous. People are going to take these and modify them and go, hey, you know, you can, if you take the inside of them out, you can replace them with these smaller units. It's almost hollow inside because they're this big now instead of this big, you know, computer platform that they used to have. You just take it out, change the power source, pop it in there. If you like it, it does tens of thousands more things. They'll be more, you know, adaptable over time. And again, this is all, yeah, and those things walk around the house and have a camera in them and will keep your pet, you know, from getting bored and shit like that. In general, in theory, we'll see. But the point is that this is coming. Adaptive behavior is way better, and don't let somebody worry you about shit just because it's a waste of your spirit. I'm just saying. All right, I gotta go. Because it's already past time, and I got a show to do later this afternoon. So I'll see you guys at 3 o'clock at the regular time because we have a bunch of clips, and I'm never gonna fucking get through all of them. But the panic attacks from the jobs report is going to be fantastic. Can that dog be hacked? Anything can be hacked. Will it be, or what's the probability of it? Very low. Anyways, we'll talk more about that next Friday, Frid-Ai, unless I have to add Monday-Ai to some of these things, which I might do. Yeah, but anybody who's telling you to fucking worry and freak out is too narrowly focused on reality. I'm sorry to say that they are of singular focus, and they have lost sight of the grandness of the human experience, and they need to fucking go outside and fucking go to a party. I'm just saying. All right, I'll see you guys later. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And oh, one more thing.
Mm.